Well, no, it would still take, the inductive charger would still take juice from the grid, but it would be wireless. So it would, you sort of park it over the charging pad and you don't have to plug it in.
So Matt, like I'm saying, not that it's a deal killer, but there's the other end of it of what the infrastructure can handle on this kind of stuff, which is a concern, I think, if you start getting into mass production trying to change it all. Well, it's going to take a while.
It would be more, we'd have to have more than 100 million electric vehicles on the road to require new grid capacity for charging, mostly because when you're going to be charging these is at night. So you charge it off peak.
One way to characterize that, PSC said that the current electric generation of electric vehicles put about the same load on the grid as a water heater.
Is it what?
As a water heater.
Yeah, and especially if it's charging at night, it's perfect sense. That's a good.
Yeah. But I think to your point, even so if you compare cost of electricity even at peak rates with the cost of gas to move your car, electricity is a win, even 10% per year for the next 4 years. But as you look out 10 years, 15 years, if we actually start putting the price on carbon, we're going to be decommissioning a lot more of the coal-fired plants. The cost of energy is going to go up across the board, but I would argue that the cost of fossil fuel energy is going to go up at an even more.
Also, we have the enterprise energy management contract for the county of Los Angeles and 69 cities, which is sort of their energy software overlay that monitors, measures, and verifies use. And in our studies there, the households in most of LA County pay roughly 3 times city light per kilowatt hour. And after 6 years or 7 years, they have the same bill per square foot. The bill is the same per square foot. Meaning behavior. Okay, that's the whole argument with utilities. The rates are going to go up, but there's a huge, huge buffer for no one's bill to go up if you start thinking more conservation oriented. Under UPSC, you teach that to your clients. You don't charge us for it. You think we'll try to get something. We'll try to get some money on your balance sheet.
Even just getting the utilities to start thinking of energy conservation as equivalent to new generation.
Yeah. Conservation, the negawatt. I told Tom this, but last night the Rocky Mountain Institute called me and voted me on the board of the Rocky Mountain Institute.
Nice.
Like you probably know Amory really well. They're big into this stuff, and the negawatt, the commercialization of the unused committed watts that the utilities are committed to give you was written about in 1990 by Amy Lovins, and he put numbers on 2010, how big the market could be and what could happen. And if you go back and read it, he was right exactly. And we just have to start thinking about that.
Turn off the lights.
Yeah.
Leave the room.
Yes.
Mark, I have 2 problems that you can help my life with. One, during the daytime, I look for Noah, and one of our key... That's a long discussion. But we're spending hundreds of millions of dollars in trying to clean up stormwater in Puget Sound from the local state government. We've done a lot of research on copper, and the reason why you have a brake pad legislation in California and Washington is because we've identified that copper at roughly 2 parts per billion starts to kill fish. So my first question is, are you building brake pads without copper in them? And then in my evening life, I'm on a city council from the very jurisdiction that has that book sitting in. And you talk about avoided costs. The avoided cost we're looking at is eventually we're going to get light rail across North End West River. But our issue is the last mile issue. And we as a city council are looking at having to build parking or come up with a public-private venture to have parking so that people can drive to and from the south end and back. And, again, that's probably a $10 to $15 million project. If I were able to have an alternative like you're proposing to bring in front of the council, we could save $10 million and have something that's far more reliable and far more environmentally friendly. So they can build it without copper and brake pads. And how are you reaching out to local governments in particular that are grappling with this parking last mile issue?
Thank you for letting me know about the copper scenario and the brake pad. We don't actually make our brake pads. We source all of our automotive components. We're sourcing from existing automotive supply chain vendors. So that will become a requirement in terms of our sourcing of brake pads. Second, though, I would say on the EV particularly, the advantage over the longer term is to use regenerative braking. So you're not actually, I mean, the idea of slowing down by just turning all of your kinetic energy into heat is a complete waste of energy. So regen should actually be a huge win for the fish. And I think to your second point, and this really is a sort of a broader issue of transportation planning, which is that if you look at the transportation planning cycle, it can be in the 5, 10, even 15, 20-year cycle on a particular project. This stuff is going to land in the next decade, right? So it's the part of the education process is to say, for your projects that you're looking out over that time frame, start to think about this as a viable alternative to paving over more desert in downtown Seattle. I mean, you think about what asphalt really represents. You take some of the most verdant land that we have. It's a rainforest, and you just wait and stuff explodes out of the dirt, and we pave it over. More dead than the deadest desert on the planet, so that we can move, and even worse, just park our steel construction truck. So part of it would be aim for smaller parking initially, so look at scoping down the vehicles for commuters, but then ultimately get rid of parking entirely.
Quick comment, I'm expanding what you said a second ago. Things are going to happen faster than we think. The latest Wired magazine has a long article on autonomous vehicles. It's not just Google, but it's BMW, it's Mercedes, it's Toyota, it's Nissan, and they all are looking at this. In the context, in the next 25 years, or by 2025, the EPA CAFE standards are 55 miles per gallon. Things are going to be changing quite a bit in the next 10 or 12 years. In your comment a second ago about Mercer Island and thinking about projects, Tom always harps on me that the WCTA is jobs, jobs, jobs. We don't build the cars necessarily here, but we've got software, we've got systems analysis, we've got wireless, we've got retail, and this is retailing EVs or retailing EV usage. It sure would be nice if those changes are coming, autonomous vehicles, etc., to figure out where we get jobs and business out of this.
We should ask this question since a lot of Washingtonians here, we have the state here. What kind of incentives would you need to move your production to Washington?
Well, thinking particularly about composites, I wouldn't. It wouldn't be moving it; it would be doing it here.
Yeah.
And I see actually. So Oregon has the government of Oregon has funded a cluster initiative in Oregon called Drive Oregon, and it's a cluster initiative around next generation transportation, vehicle electrification, and so on. I think it would make a lot of sense to expand the scope of that cluster initiative to the Pacific Northwest and actually be a Drive Northwest collaboration that leverages, like Jen was just saying, we have software, we have embedded systems, we have, particularly in the Washington area, the world leader of composite manufacturing. Marry that with a lot of the innovative work that's going on in Oregon in terms of vehicle platforms, vehicle electronics. There is no reason, we may not be automotive capital of the world, but we can certainly be the next generation transportation capital of the world. And we've got grid, we've got connection with the Pacific Rim. I would say if, and really I think from the willingness to clean sheet it, it is really helpful not to have the legacy of 100 years of automotive production behind us. Instead, looking at, how can we take aircraft technology and apply it to vehicle efficiency on the road?
At the moment, we are lucky enough to have the University of Washington automobile Lamborghini advanced composite materials.